Hello again, and welcome to the Matt Black podcast. We're now up to episode 8. I've got some very, very awesome, interesting guests today. Quite excited about it because it's something I'm very interested in. So I've got Shaune and Paula from the Prosthetic Studio. How are we both doing?
Good. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
We're doing well.
Yes. So I'm.
Excited.
So obviously I was just mentioning I found you online because I was fascinated by the things that you create, the things that you're capable of making. I'm like, how? So and you're based in Barnsley.
Yeah.
How's that happened?
I'm originally from Barnsley, but we was in Liverpool. We're living in Liverpool, and I miss my family too much, so I persuaded Shaune to come to Barnsley, which we love. We'd love it.
Yeah, because I'm not Liverpool. It's the Wirral, so it's just below the River.
I've been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was from there. I moved to London in the late '80s to go and work in the film industry. And I was there for about 25 years. I mean, I'd moved all over Canada and stuff.
You've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And obviously the films take you all over the world. And then wanted to open up a makeup school. So I moved back, went up to Manchester originally, then went across to Liverpool. So we were zigzagging back and forth.
Right.
And then with Paula, we said, because she missed her family, and we said, well, let's just have the workshop. As long as you've got somewhere that students can get to close, the train station. So we found a place, and it was only about a quarter of a mile from the train station. That we opened up that one 2 years ago.
2 years
Yeah.
ago, yeah.
Yeah, because when I did have a look on the website and the location were listed, I thought, that's where I'm from originally, Wombwell.
Are you really?
Yeah, so, yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, I'm a regular visitor.
All the best people come from.
I think nowadays you can be located anywhere. I don't think it matters where you are. We finished a film last year, and we were filming all over the southeast of England. You just build your stuff there and go where
You just travelled,
shoot.
didn't you?
Yeah.
Right, because that was one thing I wondered, because I thought, how does that work when you're in a small village in Barnsley, and these things need to be created for places all in different parts of the country?
We've had a big workshop built.
Yeah.
We?
Basically, we live at the end of a wood, so so we have a big workshop built in the back.
Woods.
Yeah.
I've spent many years in my youth walking around in there.
I bet you are. With a bottle of gin.
So we had that workshop there, and the thing is, if actors have to come to you, they'll come to you. If we have to go to them, we go to them.
Yeah.
Everything is much easier nowadays. You don't need to be in London to do any of this stuff. I know there's friends all over the UK that do it. And also we'll do things if someone's in America but they know the actor. Because weirdly, we
travel anyway.
We were in Liverpool and we got an email from a company called Weta Workshop, which is New Zealand,
right,
who did all the Lord of the Rings. And they were doing the new Rings of Power Amazon show. It happened to be that one of the actors lived 2 miles from our workshop.
Right.
So they discovered that we were there. We brought him in, live casted him, did what they wanted us to do, and we shipped it to New Zealand.
Wow. So is it? I'm going to assume that it's quite demanding of your time. Is it long hours? Is it eating into weekends and sociable times?
Yeah. A lot of people think it's glamorous, but
not.
It's so not.
No.
It's long hours.
Yeah, if you're on set, you can be doing a 12-hour day as a regular. That's your average day.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing big prosthetics work, which is
It's
3, 4, 5 hour days on top, so you'd be starting at you could be starting at 4 a.m. and finishing at 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
So, but then it's not all like that. Sometimes you'd be, yeah. The thing is,
lately it has been.
Yeah,
It's been really busy.
Yeah, I think films nowadays, they've really pulled the pre-production down, even on the big budget stuff. I heard, was it a couple of days ago, they announced there's a new Jurassic World film happening. It's coming out summer 2025.
Right.
They haven't even started it yet. Usually you'd have a year and a half easy, but they've got to shoot it and post-production. So that's the thing I've noticed over the kind of 30 years is post-production and pre-production is really tight now. They put a release date out and you haven't even shot it.
Is that do you think that's down to money? Just because there's not as much money floating around as there used to be? Or?
Yeah, it's a weird one because, like for me, I started lowish low budget, and then I went up to the big budgets like the Harry Potters, and then I've gone back to low budget again, which be honest, I quite like. I like doing low budget because with low budget stuff, everything you build is on camera. Whereas on a big budget film, they go, I'm never going to shoot on it, or we'll cut it out of the scene. So
feels like a lot of effort for
yeah,
nothing, then, doesn't it?
As long as you get paid.
Yeah, there is that.
I think as long as you're paid to do your job, you have to then take the chance that they will show or they won't show it.
Yeah.
If sometimes you've got to edit scenes out. I worked on a thing called World War Z about 10, 12 years ago, and we were all out in Budapest for 6 weeks filming the whole original end of the movie that was never shown. We went back a year later and we shot it in Kent. Was it a place called Sandwich near Kent?
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Because we're filming in there again.
Yeah,
in summer. In 3 months' time.
Yeah. So it's you just think, God, all that pretty cool stuff that we made was all gone, never shown, not even on deleted scenes or nothing. So
is it something that you maybe feel like now? Because it's probably happened a number of times, you've experienced it. Is it something you feel like you're kind of immune to now, or do you still feel the disappointment that I wish what I'd created was seen?
As long as you have your photos. We did a job, didn't we, about 4 years ago, right before COVID happened, out in Romania. We did a commercial for Nivea, and we did this. We spent 8 weeks on this makeup, and it was
beautiful.
It was like a robotic makeup. We filmed it in Romania for a week, looked great. They had 6 months of post-production, and then COVID kicked in. They ended up scrapping the whole commercial. It was gone. They couldn't release it because they were filming it with loads of people in his auditorium, and then they realised, everyone's got to be spaced apart. So then they went back in and kind of CG'd people out of shots, CG'd masks on people.
Right.
So they spent a lot of money on that, and then they realised
and then
then they lifted the COVID. So then they were like, right, and then the last thing we heard about 3 years ago was like they just scrapped the whole project, and we can't see any of it. We couldn't even we weren't even allowed to.
It was such a beautiful makeup as well, wasn't it?
There was a lot of CG, a lot of our prosthetics, and it was one of those. Can we see a snippet? Like, no, you can't see a single second of it. The director can't show it to anybody. No one can show it. They've completely binned the project, and that was about 8 to 10 weeks work.
Wow.
So that was depressing.
Did you get paid though?
We got paid.
We got paid.
There is that.
Yeah.
It softens the blow.
Yeah.
So how did things pan out through the lockdowns then? Did work stay the same? Did you just have to work in a different way, or was it quiet?
Yeah.
About 98% of our students come overseas, so all students cancelled. But luckily, we got a job in Unwelcome.
We had a couple. We had a horror film called Unwelcome, who was a director called John Wright that we did Grabbers, and he did a robot film, and he was brilliant. So that happened, but it was just literally me, Paula, and the stepson Cale, and the three of us basically did everything on that in lockdown.
We couldn't get any crew.
Couldn't get crew because no one could go at that point.
Yeah.
And then we did Midnight Peep Show, didn't we? Yeah, we were doing another horror film, Midnight Peep Show, that hasn't come out yet.
It's just been yeah.
Oh, it may have
In
just
America.
been released, yeah.
In America.
So we did that at the same time, and it was interesting. And then we did Peaky Blinders. So what was interesting was how the crews approached COVID. Like Peaky Blinders, he had COVID crew on there. Everyone had masks and visors if you were doing makeup.
Extremely strict on that.
Yeah, you have to get tested every day. Whereas obviously the lower budgets, they couldn't afford to do the testing as much. So when someone got COVID, they had to shut the production down.
Wow.
And touch wood, I've never had COVID, so I've been quite lucky. You've had it though, you think?
Well, I think I would do it, but
yeah. I've been in lots of places where it was just rife, and I never kind of come away testing positive. But we did. I'm not sure if I've talked about this on a previous episode or not, but we came back from Thailand via China in late November 2019.
Oh wow!
And I came back and I lost my sense of taste and smell.
Wow.
And I kept saying to my wife, Livy, I said, I feel like I've got the worst chest infection I've ever had. I can't breathe.
You could be the carrier.
Yeah.
You're the person that fetched it over, Matt.
So, yeah, I think I may have contributed a little bit. Yeah. But nobody knew, did they?
No.
because when I was in the Chinese airport, lots of people are walking around with masks on anyway.
Yeah.
They've done that for years.
Yeah.
So I thought, I didn't even think anything of it.
Yeah.
If I mean, to be fair, we when they started talking about it about a week before the lockdowns, people weren't really sure if it were actually as serious as they were making out. 'Cause the government didn't sound like they were making out like it was a big deal really at that point. And we were in Liverpool for my birthday, and people were walking around with masks on, and I thought, this seems a bit unusual maybe. And I started googling things on the internet. Worst thing you can do, because you're terrifying yourself. I'm like, oh my god, this thing's actually really bad. And next week everything had shut down, and it looked like a zombie film when if you went anywhere. Because
we'd got students at the time when everything went into lockdown, and a couple of our students couldn't fly home.
Yeah, you got someone going from Chicago, someone from Sweden, I think. So there was an Indian lady. So there was like, how are you going to get back home? Because it was like we finished, and I think 3 days later they locked the country down. So I don't know if they stayed on or not, but because where we were based on the Wirral with our workshop, we were 2 miles from Arrow Park Hospital, and Arrow Park Hospital was the hospital that they brought the first people from who were on a cruise ship into quarantine in that hospital. So all the students were like, why are they bringing them here when you've come all the way up through London, up the the Midlands? And we were kind of thinking, is it because the Wirral's three-sided water? It's a peninsula. So we were thinking, well, if it breaks out, they can block off the bottom of it. So this is our brain thinking, you can shut us in. It's like Escape from New York. Suddenly we're in our own little world.
I had not built this at that point, but I feel like I wish I could have just locked myself in here.
Yeah.
This is like a little bunker.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I was working in care at the time, so all my gigs stopped.
Wow.
My wife does shows, and she works in like gyms and fitness and things like that throughout the week. So everything stopped, and it was just like, oh, we just survive off this little care role. And it was just hellish because it was with kids who didn't believe that it was real, so they got told, don't go out on the street, and they went out on the street, and police would be bringing them back.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've been around children when they're told as a teenager not to do something, but if you tell them to stay in the house, they smash it up and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about the hours that you're working, like the kind of like the 4 a.m. till 9 p.m. at times. How does that differ when you've got something like, say, a mask that you've kind of pre-made and taken to a location, as opposed to when you've probably got to layer up? Is it silicone or latex that you would use?
Yeah, if you're sticking a silicone prosthetic makeup on, and it's, you can do it in every different way. If you're doing a full character makeup, say like you're doing an old witch or something, you make into multiple pieces, so you could have 6 or 7 pieces on. So they're all pre-made.
Right.
And
So you have to live cast the person first.
Yeah.
So we live cast them, and then you sculpt whatever you need to do.
Yeah, so it's all
on their
sculpted.
face.
Get your approval
It's a
from...
long process.
Yeah.
That people don't kind of see that side of it, do they?
And then you've got to break it down into individual pieces, because that makes it easy to apply the makeup. So if you're doing that, it can take 3 or 4 hours, but it'll go like that. It goes so quickly for us.
Yeah.
But for the actor, it's the most boring thing, because they have to sit there and look up, look
And
down.
I know, because I'm a model a lot of the times when he's doing demos.
Oh, right.
And I have to sit there for hours while he's
Do you have to
putting
just
makeup.
kind of just try and fill conversation like a hairdresser?
Yeah.
Have you going away this year?
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't speak. You can't move your face if they're applying it on your face.
Yeah, you have to make sure,
just-
especially around mouths, if you're having a conversation, say, stop speaking for a couple of minutes, let the glue fully set, let it all settle down, and then you can talk. But obviously, if you're pulling the mask on, it's 2 minutes.
So if so once you've spent 3 hours, 4 hours applying all that, and then the actor goes off and does do their scenes.
Yeah.
Do you have to stick around to maintain it, or do you have to? So you're constantly between takes.
Yeah.
We still have to stay on set.
Right.
Yeah,
With
we've got to
a
stay on
brush, just constantly like gluing it back,
Yeah.
and then you break for lunch, and then you've got to then glue it again because they've eaten something. You give people like, please don't do this, please don't eat greasy chicken and hamburgers. It's going to get
They do
so. So we have to do all that cleanup after lunch, and then you just have to maintain it all day. Then once you're finished, it can take you up to 45 minutes to remove the makeup because it's glued to the skin.
Yeah,
you can't just
lose eyebrows and facial hair.
You always see those YouTubers who they always like, I'm just going to peel it off.
Yeah.
But we use medical glues, which are
really
strong to stick.
Yeah.
And if you pull it, you'd be like that. So you've got to say, no, we take it off with a remover. It's like an oil that breaks all the glue down. Then that all comes off. And then if you're doing it the next day, it's a brand new set of pieces. So if it's 20 days, it's 20 sets of the same thing. You inject the silicone into the mould. It's like cooking. You have 2-part mould, put the moulds together, put bolts or however you want to put the mould, and then you inject the silicone. That comes out, then you pre-paint it, hair punch if you have to put eyebrows or stuff. So there's a lot of...
You're more than welcome to come up and look at the workshop, Matt.
I'd love to have a look at that. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. It's honestly, for years, it's like I've watched things on YouTube where people are just making kind of horror makeup at home and things like that, and some people are really good. I'm not sure where they've learned to do it, because some people look like they've just left school and they're just amazing at it. So I'm not sure if it's something to do at school or not as an option for people, but unless they're just college goers. But everybody looks like they're 10-year-old to me now. As I'm getting nearer to 40, like a 25-year-old looks like they're why is he driving a car? He shouldn't be driving.
Well, we're in our 50s, so you feel...
Yeah, we feel even...
No.
That's why, because like with these podcasts, we're like, we're not doing them because we're too old, and you know,
it's all technology. It's just technology in this for us. We don't understand a lot of it. It's like we posted a video a few weeks back on Instagram, and I went away for a week last week teaching, came back.
Yeah, and I thought, right, okay, because I couldn't go because I had to look after Juno,
our little doggy.
And so you went there, and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to concentrate on Instagram, and I'm constantly posting, and then this hand one, it's just gone crazy.
It's had about 15 million views.
Is that the hand that's got like kind of spidery legs sticking out?
No, it's a hand that bends backwards. And the amount of people who they can't get their head round what we've done, and we've had about 2,000 comments.
I've had to turn the sound off comments and just stopped it because it went ping, 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 ping. And I'm like, Shaune, look at this.
The idea was I did a simple idea, which I've seen in a film in the 90s called The Stand. And there's a scene where this man puts his hand out like flat, but his fingers bend backwards.
Right.
Effectively, it's his normal hand with a prosthetic of a top hand on there, so it bends. So when you look at it, it looks like his fingers bend. And I just did that as a gag thing for us.
So you moulded my...
It's so simple when you'd explain it, but it's so clever at the same time.
Everyone's going, there's a hand under the table, there's a fake hand, there's that. And I'm like, no, it's just the hand done that. It's just imagine your normal hand turned that way, but with a prosthetic of this on top of it.
So you moulded top of my hand, and the top of my hand went on there. So it looks like that hand's like that, but I can do that. So it looks
your fingers bend backwards.
It looks so cool.
But it's just gone weird. And we're just going up thousands of followers.
I mean, Shaune's been on everything, every cool movie. I mean, I've been on cool ones, but Shaune's been on super cool ones. And everything is super cool. And then that one, out of everything that is done, it's like millions.
Yeah.
So was that for something in particular, or just for your own enjoyment, really?
We're always doing our
just testing things.
Yeah, we just play. We have an idea and we go, we'll do that in our spare time. So we have like 2 or 3 little gags that we just sculpt. And, if we're teaching some students, we'll be sculpting as well with them. So on our last course, we said, I want to do this hand gag thing. So they were kind of watching, but not really interested, and I did it. And then when they finished,
students,
yeah, I know, it's like boring looking at the watch or phones.
Went to lunch.
Yeah, and then they went off, and then I just finished it in my own time, and then we did a test, and I didn't like the test. I thought the test doesn't work. I thought, it's awful. So you were like, no, it will work. So we posted it, and it kind of did a little bit of interest, and then over the weekend, it's just gone into millions. It's at 14, 15 million. And so someone's seen it who's probably big and reposted it and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know how.
I think if it's something that's so different and obviously it only takes
But
a
there's
handful
so
of comments
much-
early on for the
Yeah.
algorithm to kick in, and then it
Yeah.
thinks, oh,
Yeah.
actually, people want to see this
Yeah.
little video clip, so it pushes it out to everyone else.
Okay.
Then.
That's
Yeah.
you see. That's what Kale said yesterday because we
So-
don't understand the whole.
Yeah.
Blah, blah,
I've
blah
got
of Instagram.
very, very basic knowledge of it.
Yeah,
so
and he just sat down with us yesterday and explained. Right, this is why.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Which means all our other posts now are getting masses of reposts and
Yeah.
likes. So we're like, so suddenly we're just going up 1,000 every day. We're like,
yeah,
what's going on?
that's what happens with kind of
We're not used to
YouTubers.
that, man.
Yeah.
They might create videos for the same type of things for years, and then one video goes viral, and then everyone checks out everything else as well. So then you will notice that
Yeah.
everything will just start bumping up over time. And if you,
yeah.
especially if you can create a string of
Yeah.
videos that get
Yeah.
that kind of interest.
Yeah, we're always trying to do things that are
Not
just...
that Shaune needs any interest because everybody knows Shaune's
Yeah.
name anyway.
No, but
He's super well known in the industry.
But I do like doing kind of things. Think, oh, what's something weird we can do that hasn't been done for a long time, or
Yeah.
or find an old film in the 80s and recreate something from
We've
the
got
80s.
a really cool one coming up that you're going to do.
Which is that
The
one?
hand.
Oh, the hand. Yeah, we've got another
I'll not
idea.
tell you.
Oh, no.
You've got to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do something. Yeah,
That's going to be really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's good that you do that though, because I think I imagine obviously when people from different films come along, they've got in mind what they want already.
Yeah.
Do you ever get any kind of input on, let's say, actually, well, we can create X, Y, Z. How about this? And show you
Yeah.
other examples. Do
Yeah,
they
yeah.
take on board your ideas?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously if you're doing something where, like the Harry Potter films, I was brought on by my boss Nick. So there was a crew of, I think there was only 7 of us who'd worked on all 8 Harry Potter films in the creature department, but there was like 100 crew and creatures each time. So you go in and you're given a character. So you obviously know the character because it's in the book. So out on the 4th one, especially, I was given Mad Eye Moody to do. So you look at it and you go, okay, he's got this eye and scarring and stuff. And then they start casting the actors, and the actors got to have an input. And it was interesting with Brendan Gleeson because the eye in the book was his right eye, that was the blue one. But his right eye was his better eye for seeing. So he wanted that to change to that side. That's when they have to ask like J.K. Rowling and, is it okay if we change away from the book? And then also then the designs come in and and then it's months and months of people going, oh, can you tweak that? Can you tell me thinking, we're shooting now. And it went from 6 months prep to 2 weeks because no one made a decision.
God.
And I think I was working with Barry Gower on those makeups, and I think we did about 15 full finished silicone test makeups before someone went, we like that one. Right, make loads of them.
Right.
Do
they pay for the materials of those?
Oh
then?
yeah, it's all yeah.
I
mean,
I'm
I think-
panicking then.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it must cost a fortune.
I think with these type of films, they like to see what else is out there, see what other designs are before they will lock something, and they'll go, that design you did 5 designs ago, we want that one now, but you can tweak a little bit. And then you're always tweaking things. Like when we went from Potter 4 to Potter 5, we upgraded the makeup again because then we knew what issues we had on the 4th one. So, and then everything is streamlined a bit more because you have that time to play with the timing and how long it's taking. So, when you're doing the 5th film, you go, okay, we can streamline this even more, tweak where the edges go and the makeup and stuff. So it's a lot of back and forth, but they're long because, even something like that where you don't have to be in super early. I mean, that's probably like a 6:15 start. It's still, he's on for 10, 12 hours, and then you have to get a makeup off, then do it all again the next day for months.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always complain about the process of recording albums and the back and forth of that, but this sounds like far more work.
Yeah,
and a lot more people involved as well.
Yeah, you're trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
You're trying to please obviously the producer, director, the writer, the studio people. It's always that issue of the studio have to approve it as well. And if it's a franchise, they go, okay, this is now going to be in the next 3 or 4 books. Are we happy how he looks now? because are we going to change things? I mean, because I worked on Captain America, the first Captain America, the first Avenger, and I worked on Avengers: Age of Ultron. And whenever you go onto them, it's always like, okay, this character's got to be amazing day one because this is could go all the way through. So I know a lot of the actors. I know, like, I think Chris Evans had signed a 9-picture deal when he did Captain America, and I'm thinking they've obviously had it all planned out, for years.
Yeah.
But it was a case of, whereas we were doing Hugo Weaving's makeup for Red Skull, and I think he'd only signed a 3-picture deal, which he was kind of happy, really, because he was the villain in that one, but he kind of gets killed off, but then comes back in, I think, in one of the Avengers Infinity War or something. Yeah, there were so many of them, I was getting confused which ones.
Because I'd not really watched many of the Marvel films in my adult years, and then through lockdown, me and my wife absolutely binged them all.
Yeah.
Like all the like side TV shows and little spin-offs and everything as well. And I found myself getting right into it because I thought maybe I'm not interested in this anymore because I'm older and I'm not bothered. But then when I watched it, I felt the kid come alive in me again. I was like tensing up in battle scenes, like it were real. I was forgetting.
I mean, I've got to point out, I'm so confused now which one follows which one now. You had the first kind of 7 or 8 of them, and you got up to the Avengers, and we know what's happening.
Yeah.
And then it all went off, and there was, like TV. I'm like, do we have to watch this TV show to watch this movie?
Yeah, we're not 100% sure we watched it exactly in the right order. We think we got most of it right, but every now and then I was like, so and so's died, but now he's here again. I'm confused. So I'm like, well, this is our fault then. But yeah, it's so I mean, I was checking out your website as well and looking online and getting a little bit of information, and obviously a lot of your kind of story and the things that you've worked on there.
Yeah.
And it's very impressive, might I say. But it's I was just thinking, like, what are your kind of like most proudest moments out of the things that you've worked on? What creations do you think, wow, I can't believe I made that?
Everything.
I would be like that with everything as well that you've made.
It's like, oh God, did I do that?
I mean, for me, I'm proud to work on certain films that weren't probably great films, or there was, like obviously Red Skull was something because it was such an iconic thing in Marvel, and Mad Eye Moody was such an iconic thing, And I did enjoy working on them films, but then I loved working on Sleepy Hollow, the Tim Burton one.
Yeah.
Even though there's not a lot of the stuff that I'd worked on, we did a load of severed heads and bodies and stuff, and so it wasn't very massively demanding in terms of doing tons of makeups. But I just loved watching Tim Burton direct, and the set work on that, because everything was sort of forced perspective. So you'd walk on the set and you'd look up to the back of the set, and there'd be these little villages and little windmills and animals in the distance, so because he wanted to kind of shoot like an old school movie with perspective sets, so it'd go off in the distance and stuff. And just watching Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, and there's some really cool actors.
Have you seen that film?
It's a
I
great.
think I was actually at school when that came out. We were all fascinated. We were like, oh my God, there's these like heads and stuff,
It's super cool.
and it was like a completely different character for someone like Johnny Depp to play, because like when he's walking around in real life, he's this kind of like bit more gruff voice, seems really cool and suave, and he's not that kind of guy in the film, which just obviously makes for a good actor, doesn't it? So
and the great thing about Johnny Depp was he wanted to hang around on set and talk to the crew. He wanted to watch Tim because he was a really good friend, so it was nice to have him there just watching and seeing how everyone was doing their work as well. He really appreciated kind of the quality, because the sets on that were massive. And you just walk around the village and you're like, oh, I'm actually in a village in the 1700s. It was
it's all like kind of very hazy, smoky as well.
Which took hours to get every day. They'd have this. They'd have 3 lots of smoke. So they'd have the ceiling smoke, the foreground, the mid float in the middle, and then the floor stuff. But it took hours to kind of pump it in and get it to the right temperature where everything just stayed the same. And there was a cameraman called Emmanuel Lubezki, who's kind of won so many Oscars. He did Gravity and Children of Men. and he's a brilliant cinematographer, and he just spent ages lighting it. You know, so you're watching these like masters at work, just going, "This is insane." You know, yeah, it's brilliant.
So did you ever kind of get called in to help out on anything else that, if you know, a little bit, say, shall we say, like outside your expertise? Did they ever say, "Oh, come and give us an hand with this if you've got 20 minutes"? Or
I mean, it's hard to. You've always got to be a little bit careful. Where
everybody's got their own departments.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So everybody knows what they're doing on that department. So you don't really get
No.
pulled from one department to another.
No, I mean, my very first film, a thing called Nightbreed, Clive Barker film, which has kind of become a bit of a cult classic. And I think I was 20 years old, never been on a film set in my life, had no clue how films were made. Obviously, you watched them, but I remember they wanted a scene right at the end of the movie where the buildings are collapsing, so there's dust falling through all the cracks in the ceiling. So they were saying to people, "We need some crew."
There were no health and safety, I'm just
So
telling you.
I climbed up the side of scaffolding, like 30 feet up, sat on top with a bag of powdered, this powdered dust stuff, and I'm just throwing it through the cracks. I'm not allowed to do that. I had no safety harness on. There were giant lights on the side of the set, so it's burning your face. I'm just throwing it through, and then one of the health and safety shouted me off the set, and I was like, "You can't." Who's let you up there? And I said, "Well, I just wanted to help out, throw stuff out there and stuff." When you cannot sit on the corner of the set 30 foot up, throwing dust into the set. It wasn't my
It
department.
wasn't like that though back then.
No.
They didn't do anything.
Yeah, you could do anything, yeah. But, no, I mean, I painted a dog's face.
a real dog?
Yeah, a real dog.
Oh.
Yeah, we had dogs and the bulldogs on Harry Potter 3, and they had different ones that could do different things. So I had to paint a face of a dog with Skin Illustrator, it's called, which is it's like an alcohol paint. But the dog kept trying to eat my brush. The woman's holding the tray and holding this dog. I'm trying to paint the face of this dog. It's, a bit mad.
They always say don't work with children
No.
or animals, do they?
It's true.
So you were talking about obviously like the no health and safety back then. What kind of notable things would you say have changed in the industry since you started to present day, for the better or worse?
When I first started,
The health and safety's changed.
yeah, you've
It's
got
up there now. You've got to be on it.
Yeah. In terms of the creature department, when you first start, you tend to do everything. So if someone said, right, you got to sculpt it, make it, mold it, paint it, go on set. But now they departmentalise it a lot more. So you just sculpt it, someone just paints it, someone makes the mold, someone does the animatronics. Yeah, so that's different. But when I first started, I was always taught to do everything, which, you find out later on that your boss is doing that so he can save money.
Yeah.
You're doing 5 people's jobs, so he doesn't have to employ 5 people. He gets you to do and work 20 hours a day.
It's nice to know that it's the same everywhere.
That's the only thing you never tell them. Oh, you can do this, and this. I don't tell them anything that I feel like I'm just doing.
Right. So, when obviously you said, I've seen on your website that you saw a film, then it inspired you to think basically, I want to do that.
Yeah.
What was, obviously you were still a child at this point.
Yeah.
What was the next step? Did you start doing something early on, or look? I mean, obviously, I don't want to sound insulting, but when we were all younger, there was less resources. There was no internet around and all this type of stuff. So how did you find out the information and to start taking it further?
So as a child growing up, obviously Star Wars, when I was, I think 77 it came out, so I'd have been 9. Yeah, 9. So obviously I was into Star Wars, I was into spaceships, I was into dinosaurs, I was into the action men. So I was always playing with stuff. And then I think it was a film called American Werewolf in London in 1981. And they used to have these shows like Film 81, Film 82 with Barry Norman. And Barry Norman showed the transformation on the the little excerpt, and you saw the hand stretching, the face stretching. And I was 13, and I was like, how on earth has that been done? So I got my little action men, I started putting putty onto them, trying to think, is that how they did it?
a cool story.
Yeah, so I started trying to do that. Then I saw another film. This is when you could go to the video shop of 13, 14 and get an X-rated horror movie. Because I used to go to my local one and walk in and go, oh, there's a horror movie there. And they would just give it, you buy in, come back home and go, I've got The Howling, which was another werewolf film.
Plus your parents let you watch anything.
Yeah.
Whereas my parents wouldn't.
Yeah, my mum,
so
bless
cool.
her, my mum was brilliant in the fact that she would allow me to watch stuff like that and just go, I'll just watch wherever I want, In one way it's good, in one way it's bad, because she was like, I don't care what you watch as long as you enjoy it. And my mum used to draw a little bit, so she was always pushing me to kind of, try and sculpt these or try and... So I started just in my bedroom, just making little things. And then I started to think, well, how do you get a job out of it? So when I went to my careers teaching school, I told them I wanted to make monsters. And they were like, well, you can't. Only people in Hollywood do that. Become a draftsman. That's drawing, isn't it, and stuff. So I just went back home again and just... It was a little bit detective work. I started buying film magazines. Like there was things called like Fangoria, Starbursts, Cine Fantastique in my local newsagents, and I'd get them and they'd have an article on Tom Savini or Rick Baker. And from then, you just start trying to copy what they'd done. And that went on for about 6 years. I mean, I'd sent work to a company called Industrial Light and Magic, who had done Star Wars and Return of the Jedi. And they reply, back then you'd write a letter, type it out or handwrite it, post it, and then you get a letter back. And one of the people in charge of ILM said, and which was the best advice, he said, someone's got to do the work, there's no reason why it can't be you.
You've still got that letter.
I've still got that letter, and that was 1984.
Wow.
So I still started, making more stuff. Then I found out about a man called Chris Tucker, he passed away last year, who did The Elephant Man and worked on the original Star Wars. And I sent him some of my work as well by post. You go to Boot to get your pictures printed out.
Yeah.
Really bad photos, all out of focus. But I was like making a gremlin or making a Terminator arm, cuts on my face. And then he replied and said, come and see me, come round to my house. And I was terrified. I think I was 15. I went with my mum and dad and my brother. And I spent the whole day. My mum and dad and brother went off to Reading because he lived in a town called Pangbourne. It's mansion. It's an amazing house. And we just spent the whole day talking about stuff, explaining how things were made and how the foam rubber was done. And he said, just keep sending me work. And that went on for about another 3 years. And then eventually found another magazine where I had another company who did Hellraiser. And I sent them work. And then they said, come in for an interview and stuff. So I went in, had an interview. I didn't get the job. They wanted 2 runners, and there were 3 of us up for it. So I didn't get the job. Went back home. When I got home, my mum said, oh, they've called on the phone. You have the house phone.
Yeah.
That one of the boys has turned the job down. So there's a job going. So you've got the job and you start in 2 weeks. So
Wow.
I went to London just before I was 20 and as a runner, and then stayed there.
It sounds all exciting and terrifying all at once.
It was, because I was a recluse.
You were terrified.
Yeah, I couldn't go out of the house. I couldn't speak to anybody because I'd locked myself away for so long in my bedroom, from the age of 13 to 19. And I wasn't kind of doing what teenagers do. I'm sat in my bedroom sculpting monsters and really reading magazines and trying to work out how things were done. And then you get your job and then you go into an industry where it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Literally had no clue how you do something for your bedroom and suddenly you're working on it was an $8 million movie. And I think I was on £130 a week. Wow. My take home was £98, I remember. But I was happy.
Yeah.
I was happy. I was paid to make monsters.
To do something that you love.
Yeah.
So how kind of, should we say, forgiving were people when you first entered that industry at 20-year-old? If you didn't get something quite right, would someone take you under their wing or?
No, it was brutal. I mean,
Right.
it's a completely different industry to how it was.
Now. Got some really horror stories.
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
can't say
It
them
was
on here.
it was brutal. It was. Now whenever we get students in, 99% of students are girls. I don't know if it's because of how YouTube is with makeups and stuff, but when I started, it was all boys. It was 99% boys. And I'd say there was about 60 boys in our workshop, ages between 18 and 24. That was the age on that film, Nightbreed. And it was terrifying. You know, if you're targeted, they'll bully you or hit you or punch you and stuff. Because they were just lads thinking, let's set fire to something.
All right.
Let's
throw it at your head.
I had a machete thrown at my head once as a joke.
A real one or
a real machete.
Right.
And I got told off because I opened the door when the guy threw the machete at me, and I was told off for opening the door. All I heard was open the door, and he shouted, "Don't open the door," and then threw the machete, bounced past my head and hit the back wall. And obviously it was just lads, and the problem was because it was. You'd have a joke, you'd end up being there till 10 o'clock at night, not because you had to finish your work off. So, it's definitely changed.
Changed a lot.
It's not got that kind of locker room banter.
No. Yeah, and I used to walk out thinking, oh, it's all gearing up again, there's all little banter going in corners. I'm like, I'm just getting out of the building. So you'd leave until it all calmed down.
Right. So around what time would that start to change then? What year can...
It was mid-90s.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd worked for this company, Image Animation, and Bob Keane. And, we had a great time because you literally thrown in the deep end. Bob would say, right, Shaune, you're doing that. You're making that creature films in 3 weeks. Start it now. And then you work and work and work on them. And then you realise I'm not earning enough money. There's other bigger films coming in, and then there was a film called The Fifth Element, Bruce Willis film, and they were looking for crew on that, and I'm like, I've got to get out of this place and try and get on to making more money, and that's what I did. And then I got in with Nick, and I kind of stayed with him for about 15 years, on and off, doing other things, but he would always get me back in till I think the last Harry Potter was the last time I worked with him. Yeah.
So what you do now, is that more kind of on a freelance basis, or do you have set people that kind of...
Well, we have our own company. We have the Prosthetic Studio.
Yeah.
Obviously, which is me and Paula. So I'd say the last 4 or 5 years, because we kind of stepped away.
We wanted to stop being in the film industry and just teach, but it's just not worked that way.
Yeah.
We're juggling both.
Yeah, and then
which is nice.
Yeah,
because it breaks it up a little.
So now we do films and we get scripts come in and stuff, and or someone asks you to do how much is it going to cost to make this creature or that creature, and you send them a price and you break it all down for them. Yeah. Sometimes you never hear back. Sometimes they'll say, oh, we're doing it all digital, or sometimes it's too expensive. How low can you go? And there's always, with everything you do, there's always a cut off that you have to say no to.
Yeah, it's not worth your time, is it?
Yeah. We've done that a few times. Yeah. Or if something don't feel right, then we've like, no.
We do get a lot of young producers and directors sending short film scripts and go, we haven't got any money, but it would be great for your CV.
We had one yesterday.
Yeah,
I've no money, but can you do this?
Vampire makeups.
It's exactly the same in music.
Yeah.
You'll get people, you could be earning a set amount as a musician or a band / project, and then someone comes along and just doesn't look at anything that you've done, but thinks they'll fill a gap and then say it will be great exposure for you to take part in this.
Great. That doesn't pay the bills.
No, I'm going to say British Gas have turned me down multiple times with trying to pay them 3 exposures for the month.
But it does, and there's always, when we first started having the company, there was a couple of short films that came out that scripts were sent, and they were pretty decent. And you think, you know what, let's do it. And some of the short films have gone on to do really well and stuff at festivals. But now we're a bit more like, oh, no.
Yeah.
You have that gut reaction, don't you?
Yeah.
You think, I don't want to, no, it doesn't feel right at the moment. Let's walk away from it or something. But it's difficult. It is difficult to, because you want to take jobs on. It's like with me, I've got this, I love what I do. It's not so much a job. It's something I love doing. So when someone said, "Oh, we've got this really cool creature," and you're like, "Oh, brilliant!" Or we've got no money, you're like, "Oh," and I'd love to make it.
Because it doesn't feel like work, does it? When you love doing something.
You know, you just like here, you can walk up to your workshop, your studio, and just work. You know, we can go in, have some to eat, go back out, have some, you know, so you can stay there all the time because you're not travelling. The same with we just go to the end of our garden effectively.
Yeah.
Like
Do you,
yourself.
yeah.
So
do you feel that like lockdowns contributed to that in any way? It's just got because a lot of people's got into the habit of they don't go to pubs and clubs as much because they've got used to being at home, or they've built something at home, like it might be a bar or something like this, or what yourselves have got. Obviously, I mean, the people have got all different things, and they've got used to spending more time at the nest rather than going out all the time everywhere.
Well, this other place, it would.
The other place we had near Liverpool.
We had to travel, obviously, to get that,
but it was effectively too big for what we needed, and we took it 6 months before lockdown kicked in. So we had a 3-year lease for the building that after 6 months suddenly went dead. And we're thinking we're still paying quite an expensive rent on an empty.
There wasn't very accommodating.
No, the company that we were renting from didn't, you know, they weren't helping anybody on that site.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, we have to keep paying until we get out of this contract, and then that's when we decided to come back here, get a purpose-built workshop
we had
for
to
us.
Look for a big enough plot there. Which were a bit of a pain, but
and we're still running out of space now.
Yeah. The gardens are great on there. My godparents live on there, and my dad used to live on there as well. And they back up onto the wood.
We're thinking, I get this brilliant, all this massive space, and now we're like, today we've literally just gone to one of the storage places.
We need storage, so we need rooms.
Because we've run out of space in his garden.
Just because, obviously, whenever you finish a job, you have lots of moulds, lots of props still left over. So you have to put them somewhere, store them.
It's heaving.
Yeah, so we've now got to put them into a storage room just because we're running out of storage space.
Either that or we move. We was talking about moving. But then again...
No, I'm not moving
don't
again.
really want to do that again.
I imagine not. I mean, it's hard enough just moving with normal furniture and moving with giant creatures. You'll get some looks.
Oh yeah, we've had neighbours.
The new neighbours are here. What the hell is that?
Yeah, we've
walking with a body under our arms.
We've had a lot of curtain twitching, haven't we? We've had to obviously tell all our neighbours, right, this is what we do.
Don't be worried if you see someone covered in blood.
Yeah. We do go out into the forest with the smoke machine, you know, take some pictures of creatures.
Body bags and things like that.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Well, we had a body delivered, do you remember? We bought this fake body, this woman's body, and the company shipped it wrapped up in plastic. And it looked and it was post office, Royal Mail delivered it.
They didn't actually put it in a box.
So
they wrapped it up like it was a
and you could tell it was a woman's body in a bag.
Tape round the neck, waist, knees, ankles.
You're just like, oh
that were just like, oh no.
And he got out of the van over his shoulder, walked with his body up the drive. We're just like, oh god, no.
Oh, it keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what about your story then, Paula?
My story's very dull and boring.
I'm still intrigued. What did you see, or what did you meet? What set this off?
I knew I was talented, but I didn't know which direction to go in. Like, I knew I could use my hands, but I was just so confused what to do. So I started very boring in hairdressing. So I did a bit of hairdressing, didn't like it, thought, no, that's not doing it for me. Then I went to college and I did painting and decorating and special effects on the walls, which I absolutely loved. And then that's when I got to meet Bill Allgate, which is a master in marbling and graining, is fantastic. I went to Paris with him and did a bit in Paris, and it were amazing, and he wanted me to teach at his school, but sadly he passed away. So I did a little bit after that, just doing a little bit of special effects on the walls and everything, and I just thought, still something missing. So then I wanted to do what Shaune does, sculpting, special effects, but I got in with wrong people saying, oh, you need to do it this way, so you need to go to college and university. I went to college, still didn't feel like it was doing anything for me. So I went to university, and I just, again, I loved it, but I didn't stay the whole. I ended up finishing, and then while I was there, I met Shaune, and what I learnt in one day at Shaune, well, more than what I'd learnt 6 months while I was there. So I ended up finishing at university.
Right.
And then Shaune.
So you met at the university, or did you meet on a job? Or
No, it was through somebody else. It's through one of my students knew Paula, and we just kind of. I was single, you were single. We kind of got together that way, didn't we? And then we became kind of, let's see where it all goes and stuff. And that was about 6 or 7 years ago.
7 years ago, yeah.
So did you work together from the off then, or did you still kind of pick up work separately to each other?
Obviously I learnt a lot of Shaune, but
you were still doing like beauty makeups and bridal stuff.
I was doing, and like props and things like that, and background. Oh, sorry, background paintings, because I paint as well.
Yeah.
So, but that's all come in really handy. It's like because with the hair and the hair punching, and if we're doing a dead body and doing the hair punching and the eyebrows and the makeup. But this is why I don't say when we're on set, I can do that, and that. It's like, we'll get Paula to do that, and that.
All right.
Like,
So do I have to cut all this part?
No,
They'll not be watching me.
But I mean, I love what obviously what Shaune's taught me and everything, and it's just. Shaune were very clever at throwing me in the deep end when we first met, and that's what I need, because I'm really shy and I wasn't outspoken. I were always coming up against a brick wall because of my accent. Like, people are like, "Oh, that's brilliant, who's done that?" And then as soon as you start talking, it's like, "Oh, no." Yeah. That accent.
We were just talking about that before we started this episode, and I get that quite a lot. If I'm emailing people, I can come across rather intelligent, but then the moment I start talking, they go, "Wow, thick farmer's talking to me."
Yeah. They always try and mock how you speak as well. You're from Barnsley.
Yeah. Well, we travel a lot with the bands, and they'll always ask where we're from, and I'll go, "Oh, so and so's from Derby," and I'm from Barnsley, and I'll just say it like that, and then they'll go, "Barnsley."
Yeah. Why did they do that?
I don't say it like that.
It's like I told you, didn't I? And then you've only just like these last few years just started seeing that. It's like, and then when we worked down London, we can say that, can't we?
Winnie the Pooh,
Winnie the Pooh.
2, not the first one, the second one we
Winnie
worked
the Pooh
on.
2. We were working down London, and we went to this location, and it was so posh, wasn't it? And they were like, Northerners.
It was all millionaires' houses.
Northerners.
Northerners coming down.
And I was like, oh my God.
Switch the CCTV on.
They're thinking rough.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's weird how you get... how people look at you just because of how you speak. It's bizarre.
If I ever do like kind of
Really
a corporate job, singing job just on my own or something, if it's somewhere a bit posher, I immediately have to just kind of let them know, I've come in here in my own car, don't worry, your wheels are safe. I've got my own food and drink and dressing room. I put a jacket on as well, so they don't think I'm an absolute scrubber. And I make sure I put my contact lenses in, because if I've not got a hat on, they think I look like a Harry Hill tribute. So I've got to be careful.
Oh,
yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there a good mix of people from around the country then that you tend to work with on some of these films?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we're working with the producer and director Scott and Reese. They did Winnie the Pooh. This the first one, Blood and Honey, which was an super cheap, like £50,000 movie that took off, and they made quite a few. Well, the production made quite a few million off it, because it was a horror film based on Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
And then Winnie the Pooh 2 was coming up, so that's when they contacted us, and they've got all these different ideas for other films. We're doing a Peter Pan movie, horror movie.
We did the Winnie the Pooh last year.
Yeah.
We've got the premiere coming up.
Couple of weeks, isn't it?
2 weeks time.
Yeah.
So we're going to see that in London.
So that was interesting, because again, it's a low budget film, but they had a bit more money this time.
Some really cool effects in it.
Yeah,
really
and they contacted
good
us
story.
through, it was Vince Knight, who was the cameraman, on the cinematographer on the first one. We'd worked with him on a film called Wolf Manor and Midnight Peep Show, and he put us forward for it. And the first thing they said was, we want to redesign everything. We want to redesign Winnie the Pooh. We want to bring in, I think, Piglet, Tigger, and Owl. So they basically just said, obviously do what you want to do, but don't get us into copyright issues. So that's the first thing we did. We found every reference for Winnie the Pooh, all the Disney stuff, everything, A.A. Milne stuff, anything that had pictures of him, to know not to go that route, because you don't want to start getting sued by Disney and people.
So, God, that's kind of like blowing my mind that you've even got to do. You've got to spend a lot of time with research just before you even consider thinking about drafts for ideas for things. There's so many stages.
You've got it, yeah. I mean, I did years ago. I worked on it. I did a Frankenstein commercial, and they wanted to go down the sort of Boris Karloff 1930s Frankenstein route, but they had a list from Sarah Karloff, who was from the Karloff estate, saying this is what you can't do. If you put bolts in this area, if you put the scar in this area, you paint the hair, there was all little things that if you did, you're infringing copyright.
Yeah.
So we go, okay, we can move the bolts there. We can, we had to, it's a serious thing, because you don't want to be sued by people.
No. Yeah.
And
you don't want a letter from Frankenstein.
No. And it is fascinating to go, okay, what point is this? We're infringing somewhere with somebody, so you have to make sure. A certain
percentage difference then for the image.
Yeah,
or their likeness.
Yeah, you want to do a homage to a character. When you go, okay, it's Winnie the Pooh, so he's a grizzly bear type of thing. So you look at then a real animal stuff. You look at the fur on an animal. You look how the nose looks, and you try and incorporate that. And then, obviously, once the actors signed on to it, you then go, okay, how is it going to fit his face? Make sure he can see, breathe, hear. It's comfortable for them. You don't want to make it come that far out where it's really uncomfortable and heavy.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to, you do thickness tests on your sculpt. So you because you have a head to work from, it's a plaster head. So you have these little pins, and you just start poking your sculpt to go, okay, it's 4 mil thick there, but it's 4 centimeters thick here. So you're always tweaking and refining until once the sculpt's approved, there's kind of no going back then. As soon as you start moulding stuff and they go, oh, can you change it? We're going to start from scratch again because we've moulded the thing now.
They've got to fully approve and lock down the look.
Yeah.
Because it does get changed a lot.
Yeah.
Constantly sending photos in to them.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was a very odd situation on Captain America. And obviously with Red Skull, it's a red skull, effectively. Yeah. It is what it is. And they were saying, don't go down the Skeletor route from He-Man, Masters of the Universe, which is no, we won't. But obviously we knew the nose had to be digitally removed, because you can't really pull something out, because obviously with prosthetics, it's always an additive. You're always adding to someone's face. You can't subtract it.
Yeah.
So we would always build stuff, and they go, we'll CG that bit out, we'll CG this bit out. But I remember we were in one of the meetings, and my boss Dave had the sculpt of Red Skull, and it was in grey. It was a grey sculpt.
Yeah.
And they had some Marvel people on the monitors from LA looking at it, and I think one of them, I can't remember, because I think I wasn't in the room at that point, but they came out later on and said, he was asking why it's Red Skull, not Grey Skull. And it's it's the sculpt, and he's like, no, I can't visualise until it's red. So we had to take it back, paint the sculpt red.
Grey Skull's making me think of He-Man now.
Yeah. So we had to ruin the sculpt to get them to approve what they thought, and then you put it back out there, painted all red, and they go, oh, that's more like Red Skull. It's but it's the sculpt. You have to process it and then make them in red afterwards.
God, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, isn't there?
There is. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing something where you were obviously you're creating the prosthetics that you're making, and then CGI comes in, is that obviously there's a lot more of that now than when you first started, and it seems to be becoming more common from what I can see. Is that something that's like a threat to your work, or is it something that can complement it and work well with it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember
When it first came out, thought so, but not really now.
No, I mean, when Jurassic Park came out, we all panicked. We're like, oh my God, they're doing digital creatures. But it's kind of, in one way, opened more doors. Because what they can now say is, can you build this and we'll CG on top of it? Or we may not use it on camera, but we need it what's called a light and stand-in. So you'd build something completely finished, beautifully silicon painted. It's never going to be seen on camera, filmed, but we'll have it for the actors, so the actors can look at something, as opposed to used to have like a tennis ball. We used to have tennis balls on sticks. So an actor's looking at that for a dinosaur walking around.
Yeah, I suppose it's harder for them to play their part as well, isn't it? If you're not many people. Well, I don't know. I'm terrified of tennis balls, so it's.
So I mean, and I know definitely with CGI makeups. I mean, obviously Red Skull had it. I worked with Mark Coulier on Voldemort on Harry Potter 4, which was a CG nose. So I was basically Mark's assistant, applying one half Mark. It was Mark's makeup, but it was fascinating because they had to have all these tracking dots, and the tracking dots had to be in exactly the same place for the CG company to scan and track his face around. Because obviously they had to remove our nose and then put the CG nose onto him. So it was a case of, don't move that dot a millimetre. If you stick that dot there and it falls off, it's got to go in exactly the same place. And then you would have constant CG people photographing and taking light readings and measurements all the time. So it became a process of everyone just, getting there. They needed all their data. And it was fascinating. That's 20 years ago. So obviously things have changed now. They don't need tracking dots as much anymore.
Right. We did tracking dots on that Nivea.
Yeah, we did tracking dots. Yeah.
She had
Yeah.
quite a lot of tracking
Because
dots.
she was CG'd. Her head was CG, so you could see through it and stuff like that. And it was all clear skin. So we had to tracking dot her whole
body.
Which was an hour. It takes an hour to stick tracking dots on all over the body. And the CG people come up and go, we want this size, bit of black tape with a red dot on it. Can you make 100 of them? And then you're sticking them on every day for them, and then they're taking reference photos, and they're constantly videoing what you're doing for their reference as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think it helps us. You can now do stuff that you can remove someone's face. Someone gets shot for the face. Instead of doing it as a fake head, you can CG all that out.
Yeah.
Paint it green if you need to, and they can CG that. And it just helps us as well.
Yeah. So you can make, like you say, you would make a mask, and then they can almost enhance the situation depending on what's needed like making look like you say, going inwards.
Yeah, it's like Unwelcome. We did all the big masks for Unwelcome.
The goblins.
The goblins, and they CG'd the eyes and the lip movement.
Yeah, everything there was CG, so they could do frowning, screaming.
That's the one that we did in lockdown.
Yeah. So there was no need for animatronics on that. You didn't want to put blinks, mechanical blinks and stuff. They just had these expressions, and the CG people painted them out. And then for shots where they don't need to move or talk, it's our masks walking past, and then they blink.
Right.
It's quite amazing.
So when you talk about the mechanical things, I've seen that you did one with was it like a deer's head or something?
And a dying stag.
Yeah, and you've got that was kind of on like a lever. We were controlling by hands.
Yeah, so you could move the body inside. We had breathing apparatus, so we could make it breathe inside.
Put a bladder in there.
Bladder, yeah. So we had rods that you could push it to the head, because it's supposed to be dying it was a show called Mammals for Amazon, and you get shot, and the woman finds it, and then they CG the whole back of the body.
Yeah.
And I think they CG'd blinks on the eye as well.
Yeah.
And the slight movement on the mouth, because they kind of said we don't need it to move because it's dying, but we may enhance moments of it.
Just the breathing and the movement on the mouth.
Just to make it more like an animal.
Yeah, they had to make sure the head could turn, so because she snaps its head, she gets its horns and kills it because it's been shot and it's suffering. So as long as the head can move, so we had rods inside, but that was when it was lockdown.
Yeah, that were another lockdown one.
And we couldn't. They wouldn't allow us on set because they didn't give us our PCR tests. So we had to stay 6 feet away from people, explain how to operate it, but not be within 6 feet of people. It was bizarre.
Oh, we're a nightmare.
Yeah.
Another nightmare.
Wow. It's weird because when you were describing the situation, because I've not actually seen that, but I've obviously seen the video clip you've put on. Now
Yeah.
you describe the actual scene. I was feeling really sad for this non-existent animal.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm an animal lover, so I'm like, oh my god.
So the interesting thing about that is, obviously, with an actor sat next to something that isn't there, you've always got to say to them, by the way, don't walk that way, to be walking through its body.
Yeah.
So you always have these parameters all the time, which we used to do that a lot in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like there was something there that we're operating, but they would paint you out. So the CG people said, don't worry, you can stay where you want to stay. We'll CG you all out afterwards, which is fascinating. We think, outstanding.
So obviously that one you say you're controlling that one by hand.
Yeah.
Are there other kind of techniques you use for that? Then is there anything that's kind of almost robotic or?
Yeah, I mean, you can go down the route of animatronics. Cable controls. So that's when you employ mechanics people.
Yeah.
So you have an underskull. So you have a fiberglass underskull, and effectively you build it like a skull. So you get the jaw to move first, and you have cables on there. And then you start putting the eye blinks in. Then you start thinking, okay, we need a frown. So you put little things, and they can either be cable controlled or servo motors, radio controlled. So you can operate them by radio controlled. So you can blink. But that's when, because Mad Eye Moody was his eyeball was a radio controlled eye. So Brendan had this. It clipped onto the side of his head, magnetic. He had cables going down to a strap around his body, and then he had servos in there and the battery pack. So sometimes he can just hear this like servo movements because the eye's moving inside right near his own eye.
That's got to be off.
So it must be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's fascinating to be honest. Yeah. When so obviously in the last few years, kind of the use of AI in most industries has just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Is that kind of coming in your industry in any way, or is it affecting you in any way or helping?
No, I mean there's not so much the AI stuff. Definitely with scanning processors, you can scan stuff a lot more now. You can CG scan. You can, if you want to sculpt a certain big size, making 10% bigger, you can scan them digitally. They can print out. But in terms of AI stuff, that's not hitting this side of what we do at the moment.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's all. I mean, you can do things. You can sculpt sculpts in the computer as opposed to physically taking a bag of clay. You can sculpt in the computer, you can scan the actor's head, that goes in the computer, and you can build on top of them in the computer, and you can print things out that way. And that was even started back on the Harry Potter films. We did I think on the 4th Harry Potter, we had a woman, I think called Madame Maxine, who was kind of the girlfriend of Hagrid, so she was like 9 foot tall or something, and they scanned her head and built her head that big.
Right.
It ended up being re-sculpted by a sculptor because back then it wasn't 100% right. And we were doing that a little bit with the spiders and stuff, scanning certain things and producing them and stuff like that. But no, I don't think the AI side of it's taken into our world just
Yours
yet.
is a little bit more physical at this point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you have use of things like 3D printers? Obviously, they've become really popular for a lot of people now, haven't they?
We have a company. We'll go to a company.
Yeah.
So when we were doing,
We're thinking about getting one.
Yeah.
It's mega expensive.
Yeah.
but-
I keep toying with
Yeah.
getting one, but I just think I would fill my house with rubbish, things
Yeah.
we don't need.
yeah, you'd be printing
Exactly.
cups out and
Yeah.
things that you don't really need.
So we just continue to use the company
Yeah.
that we do use
Yeah.
until we think.
So we either go to them, they'll scan a sculpt of ours, or they'll come to us, scan the sculpt, they'll print it out for us, and then we'll remold it. Which we did that with the skulls, didn't we? We had to make, because in
For the
Unwelcome,
one,
because the
yeah.
goblins were...
They came and scanned the goblin head.
Yeah, because the goblins in the film are supposed to be like 2'6", they had to scale up everything. So if they're holding a human skull, the skull's actually that big. It's double sized to a human skull.
Yeah.
So everything had to be. So we got the skull that they liked. They scanned it and printed out a double sized skull. But then when they had the files, we were like, "Oh, can you print out a quarter scale skull. Can you print? And we were painting skulls that big, tiny, like 1 inch skulls.
They also did the masks and then downsized them.
Yeah, that's right.
Because then we had to mould that.
We had to remould them, so everything had the exact look for them, which was that was the first time we'd really used it.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to see these little tiny heads that looked exactly like your big heads. You know, so yeah.
It would be cool to have one, but like Matt says, we will be just printing.
That's the problem, because I've looked into them online and I always think, well, that looks great, and then people are saying, well, these are quite good because they're reasonably affordable just for home use, but then they're getting hold of these files and they're making things that they're just absolutely pointless, but they just look cool, but everyone that's got a 3D printer's got one because of the free files, and then they've just got them sat in the house.
Yeah.
They are a little bit unpredictable as well, because when we went to see Rick Baker,
Rick
he's
Baker
got
in America.
He's got one, and it just broke. It was just halfway through doing.
Yeah, stopped printing the resin, didn't it?
I can't remember what he was printing on, but it just stopped halfway
and
through.
he had a bit of a...
he said they were brilliant, but they are unpredictable.
Yeah, I see the like they'll make kind of like say like Avengers characters, like figures and people from little people from films and things, stuff that you would normally buy as a collectible, say on eBay, and then they hand paint them themselves.
Yeah.
But then you see the ones where they've tried 4 times before they got the final result, and it looks like the Elephant Man, but it should have been Batman. You know. It's but it still doesn't put me off. You've probably gathered from being in here, I do like boys' toys, so there'll be an extension at some point, I imagine.
Brilliant.
So just before we kind of approach towards the end of this, I wanted to just ask you about the courses that you do then. So obviously you've got quite a lot of information on there. You teach people how to do what you do. Like what do those type of courses entail? Is that for someone to attend one of your courses and then move on to something else? What's the career path? Do they need certain qualifications or
no? Because ours is it's a private school and we only take on a maximum of 4 students per course, we have a whole run of them from literally one day. So if someone says, I've no clue what it's all about, can you explain to me what prosthetics is about? Can you explain what everything is? So we can do that in one day, just explain stuff. Then it goes into a 1-week course which people are always interested in injuries, gore wounds, injuries. Everyone wants to do gore.
There's a lot of gore on the Instagram.
Yeah.
So people love it.
People will come to us and go, I know a little bit, but I don't understand how you get your what's called the edges of your makeup perfect, or how you get your pieces to come out perfect. So we'll do an injury course on that, and it'll be things like wounds, cuts, bruises, tiny little wounds, thicker wounds, blood tubing.
So we'll learn them how to sculpt the piece and then mould it, then run it, then apply it, then paint it.
But it's people who have a real interest, not so much a real interest, but think, oh, I'd love to do this as a job.
Some people's got experience, some people haven't got experience. We get teachers as well coming in just for refreshing.
Yeah.
We'll teach it.
Yeah, we go up from a 3-week course, and then the 6-week course is kind of the big thing where, where you want to kind of sculpt something, design your character, break it down, make 6-piece makeup, hair punch and stuff. It's really
intense, the 6-week one, yeah.
And I'd say 50-60% of people who do those courses go into the industry.
Yeah.
And because we know a lot of people in the film industry will say, oh, I think you should really send your work to this person or that person. So because we know the names of companies, we'll go, I think this work suits this company better than this company. And if they're obviously coming from a different country, we'll go, well, we know there's a special effects company in this near, maybe 300 miles away. Talk to these people. So, it's nice they come over to us. Some people are literally never picked up a brush, and they're brilliant. They've picked up over 6 weeks. There's other people who've been in the industry for 30 years and go, I can know how to do a bruise with a bit of paint.
A refresher on things, don't they, as well?
Yeah, and we'll have companies that have done TV shows that will send a makeup artist from a show to us to refresh them as well. So we try, what we basically give them all the information. The one thing I don't do is keep the secrets of how we do stuff. There's always a thing in the industry like, oh, I'm not telling you how we did it. Well,
Yeah.
there was a
But
guy.
we do.
Yeah.
We tell them all.
Well, there was a bloke called Dick Smith who was kind of known as the godfather of makeup. I mean, sadly, he's gone. He's been probably nearly 10 years now. But he did the original Godfather films. He did Taxi Driver, The Exorcist. He invented pretty much everything we do.
Right.
And without him and his knowledge, we wouldn't be doing what we do now. And he always would, I've met him a few times. I met him before he passed away. But he was just a genius, and he just gave all his information out to people. So I just thought, well, what, if someone comes to our school and they're paying to come to our school, I'm going to give you 35 years of my knowledge of how the film industry works and how you make it for the film industry, not how, say, a college course would do or a university course would do it. Because we do lots of teaching. We go to colleges and we do demos and universities and
We're
stuff.
doing one at Barnsley College, actually. Is it next week?
I saw that.
Yeah.
I had a little look.
Yeah, and we're going there to do like a 3-hour kind of workshop and explain the industry in a nutshell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Show what type of work we've done, what you can achieve and stuff. Because I think a lot of people think, I can't do it. It's all be done in America. I mean, the UK especially is brilliant for, tons of work coming in at the moment.
Yeah, that's why I was like a bit kind of shocked when I found out you were just down the road from me, because I thought surely they must be in London or something.
See,
Yeah.
that is bizarre.
That's what everyone thinks.
Yeah, everyone thinks that everyone's in London and they're not.
No,
bizarre.
you can be anywhere you want,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Well, I know people that they work as actors professionally and things like that, and they don't always, they very rarely go to London. They'll be shooting in Bristol or somewhere, completely different.
Yeah,
So
you can live anywhere you want and you go for that job. You obviously you can go. We used to have used to work on like the Harry Potters. A lot of the stunt guys lived in Cornwall. They would come down Monday morning and then go back Friday night and then stay home there and come back, and they did that every week for months on end. Loads of stunt guys lived over in Cornwall for some reason.
Wow. Yeah, I think, like you say, we're talking about you're not kind of keeping any secrets.
Yeah.
It's that's why they're coming to you, because they're getting that experience. They're not just being anyone that can do something can show someone how to do it. But like you say, there's all the do's and don'ts that you'll be telling them, all the things that you've experienced, whether it be good or it be bad, and you can kind of put that across in a way so that they can go out and do amazing things. But also it's your reputation on the line at the same time, then, isn't it? Because you don't want someone to go and just blag it and then they go, oh, where did you learn that? Oh, we learnt it from...
And we'd also tell people, don't sculpt that because that's a really horrible trend that people, there's like
the Coke can in the hair.
Yeah, there was a lot, especially 10 years ago, there was a lot of these weird trends, like the Coke can going for the eye, or the pencil for the nose, and the zip face, and I was like, why would you do that where everyone else has done it?
Yeah.
Do something original.
I see the zip face just on Halloween in general, just normal people just going about the business who don't do makeup, just copy something.
I don't get it. I never understand following everybody
You don't
else.
see the zip face in the industry.
No. So we would tell students, don't do that, because that will probably backfire if you send that work off to a company in London or something. Because, you want to try and impress a boss, get that work out, and it could be that one piece of work gets you a job. And we always say to people, always look through what you've done before, remove stuff, be brutal with what you've done.
We have gone through a lot of students' Instagrams of work and said, right, okay, keep that on, take that off, keep that on.
Yeah.
They take it all on board. It's
I mean, it's like when I first started, it was brutal. They were like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You can't say that now.
But that's what I used to get, and it was like, really? But you can make it this good, and then they bring you something, you go, wow, you can get to that level.
If they're really serious about wanting to get in the industry, then they do listen and they take it on board.
I think that, like you say, when you're talking about not following trends, and you obviously like to try new things and create new things, that's why you've done so well. And there'll be other people that they may be capable of doing it, but they might not have got that creative streak where they can just come up with random ideas and think, I'm going to make something different or do something a little bit more eye-catching than just copying everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, we have about 1,000 books at home of all different sorts of, creatures and magazines, ranging from the 1970s to now.
More than that.
Probably more than that.
Is that in a separate building? So
It's in
No,
the
it's a
workshop.
whole wall of books. But I always say to students, grab a book, have a look at it. This book, Rick Baker brought out his book Metamorphosis, which is the best book I've ever got. It's 700 pages. It's 2 volumes, but it's 50 years of his life. He's won 7 Oscars. Did Men in Black, Thriller, Nutty Professor. The Grinch, Planet of the Apes. The guy's a genius at everything he did, and he still does it now in his 70s, and he's still incredible. Still, the stuff still blows me away.
Yeah.
And I always say, have you heard of Rick Baker? And it's just like, no. It's like, do a little bit of research, have a look who the famous people were out there, who inspired us lot. Because I always try and do a history of the industry, and going right back to Frankenstein, Jack Pierce stuff, going right through, all the John Chambers and Planet of the Apes, just to kind of go, you need to know who these people were before us, and why they're so good at what they do, and what they did back then is still better than what we do now sometimes. And it's like, I always think, if you're a footballer, you want to know who the great footballers were in the 60s, 70s, 80s and stuff. If you don't know that, but you love playing football, I think there's something wrong. If someone goes, I've never heard of Johan Cruyff or Pele, you're like, but you a professional footballer, surely you should know who that person is. The same if you haven't heard of like Rick Baker, Stan Winston, Dick Smith, Rob Bottin, Tom Savini. These guys, and even way back into the 30s, they're amazing what they did. And
I can relate that to music as well, because obviously the one of the bands I'm in does kind of modern hard rock music, but then we're massively influenced by the 60s, 70s, 80s type of rock bands. But then, because of my family being well into music, I'm influenced by some of the stuff that those bands are influenced by. So I'll listen to a lot of stuff from 40s, 50s, early 60s and things like that. And it is good to kind of expand your knowledge and see how things progressed, because it gives you a better understanding of why things are the way they are now. So they probably understand why you do things a certain way, because there may have been some trial and error that someone else before you did in the early days. So what just one more thing on that, what would make like a standout special effects artist in your opinion?
Doing something that's clean. Whenever you make something, if you sculpt it, you make a nice clean sculpt, a nice clean mould, a nice clean piece. Presentation is really important, I think. If you make all those stages. Also, just being open to trying different things as well, and not being afraid to go, I can't do it. I can't. You have a lot of people who kind of think, it's too hard. It's too hard to do it. It's like, no, just have a bit of faith in what you do, and it can take time. I think a lot of people think, I'll do your course and I'll go straight into the industry. If it was like that, everyone would be in the industry. And I think it's also down to timing as well. You could have the best sculpt you've ever done, and some people go, it's incredible, but there's no work at this present time. Timing is one of the most important things, really. I mean, I sat in my bedroom for 6 years, not knowing what to do until it all happened at the end. But I think just having, not looking at what everybody else who does stuff on YouTube as well.
Don't do anything that they...
Don't copy a trend. If I said to someone, copy something that Rick Baker did on Men in Black, sculpt that alien head as close as you can to Rick Baker's head. First of all, Rick would probably love it because you're doing something that Rick's done. But also people in the industry will go, I love that, a Men in Black head. So they could then go, I like that. And it's different to what other people do. We've had students sit in and go, I don't know what to do from a 6-week course. Remember with Laura? And we went, right, we've got a picture of a book when that's what you're sculpting. Because I think it's really cool. And she sculpted it beautifully. She's got a job now. She's working in Spain on horror films.
She did a brilliant
And she's
job.
only 21. So, it's just having that drive to think I can do it. I mean, some people just naturally have a gift. Other people can struggle to get to that, but we'll get to it. You can see improvements.
Everybody's on different levels as well, and learning levels. So, They will, if they really want to do it, they will get to where they want to do it eventually.
And take the best photo you can.
Yeah.
You know, it's all the photo is
That's
what gets you your
important.
job at the end of the day. You get a nice 3/4 shot of your makeup.
Nothing in background, because
No.
everyone looks at the background.
Yeah. No kind of like, or just take a quick selfie and then post it. You know, that one picture you post could get you a job. So just think about what you're taking, make it as light as possible, the best way.
I think in modern day as well, it's like people are so obsessed with how that one photo on the internet goes. They might take 100 photos before they get the right one.
And don't filter your photo as well. We really recommend don't filter your photos. There's a lot of filters at the moment in there.
And industry people can tell, you know, they can go, it's filtered.
Yeah.
You know, I can see what you've done there. I can see how you've used that app to do that to it.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to, you know, just tell them this is the best way of doing something, and you know, see if they take it all on board. You know, you can have some students who will fight you the whole way and go, no, I don't like your idea. So okay, all right, fine. You know, you do your idea, see how, you know, we'll then go, okay, we like that idea. It's probably not something we would think of, because some people have some very strange ideas that are up in their head. They've had them in their head for years, and you're like, really? Is that what you want to do? That's you know,
one comes to mind there.
Yeah, but you can't. It's really difficult to try and stop someone who goes, "That's what I want to make." You go, okay, it's probably not the best concept you can do, but give it a go. See what happens with it.
I feel like I'd have loads of weird ones. I'd be the weird person. I have like kind of I get like night terrors and things sometimes, and my wife she tells me, I don't know it's happened half the time, but she'll tell me, she's aware of it obviously, and I'll sometimes remember certain things and I'll describe stuff. She'll go, where the hell's that come from? We've not watched anything that's remotely like that. And I'm just these weird things I see in creatures, and I don't believe in them or anything. It's not like I think that they ever existed, but I do see them for some reason.
Brilliant.
I used to draw them when I was a kid. I'm sure that's must be some kind of horror movie thing. My name's not Damien, honestly. Well, I always like to end the podcast asking guests what advice they would give to their younger selves.
Oh God!
They always respond like that as well.
Oh my goodness me!
Do you want to go first?
To a younger self. Oh God! You go first. I'm thinking.
My younger self, with me, would probably been more confident in myself.
Yeah, we're just going to say.
I didn't have any confidence. I think I could have gone a lot further quicker had I just, you know, I was too nervous to talk to people and get work out there and show my work to people. Be more confident and, you know, go. I didn't trust myself back then either. When I was 16, 17, 18, I didn't think I could do it. You know, now, just be more confident in myself, I think.
I would be exactly the same, more outspoken and listen to my own thoughts and not somebody else's thoughts, do what I want to do and not what somebody is telling me what I should do. Yeah. I wish I'd have done that. And I wish I'd have travelled as well. And
learn the piano.
And
as you mentioned before we started,
yeah.
It's never too late.
I'm dying to have a tinkle. Well, I did look. There's somebody teaches in Woodwell actually the piano.
Is there?
Yeah, above. Where is it? You know, Lockie's Bar.
Oh yeah.
Across the road.
Oh yeah, there's a little music place there, isn't there?
They teach you to play piano.
I never got a good look because I drive through there, and it's obviously when you're going through the traffic lights, I don't want to risk crashing, but it's difficult on a corner to see what they're actually doing.
So I did ask. I can't remember how much it was though, but I thought no. But when we moved back to Woodwell, I said, Shaune, we're having a piano, and I am going to do it.
They're giving them away upright.
They are.
People just need rid of them all the time.
They do. There's so many for free.
I know.
Yeah. It's because it's an absolute pain to transport them.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you're used to transporting sometimes huge, heavy objects, so you've probably got the means to do it.
They're not that big.
Well, that's a baby grand that I've got in the studio. So you could get upright ones that they're just as big as a bookshelf. So I'll get a little keyboard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Little bit of synthesizing
Some
music.
of them sound like pianos now, and you can get them with weighted keys, so they feel like a real piano.
See, birthday.
You don't realise how great I felt just teaching you something just
Yeah.
then. After the past hour, I've just spent fascinated by what's going on, learning new things.
Next time I see you, Matt, I will have a little tinkle on Ivory's.
Well, I'm expecting some of your Instagram videos to have a little bit of background music going on in future.
And getting chopped
Oh
off.
God,
on the-
yeah.
on the piano.
Yeah, I imagine you could create a new way of playing piano if you can bend your fingers the other way. But no, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming through.
Yeah, it's
I
been
really
lovely.
appreciate it. It's been
No,
really interesting.
brilliant.
I hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah.
Nah, it's been great, Matt.
Yeah, it's
Thank you very
fabulous.
much.
Enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks.